Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
Rape is not okay.
No.
It's not okay.
In any way, shape, or form.
How do you feel, and I'm hoping you know what I mean with this term, about situational awareness?
I know what you're talking about from concealed carry classes and everything.
But basically knowing your surroundings, knowing how everything you do, say, and think contributes to the way that other people react to you in that situation, and how your own behavior can contribute to victimization.
Yeah. If you're a person walking down the street and you're looking at your phone while you're walking, you're not aware of what's going on, it makes you an easier victim. But if you're a person who's got, standing straight and tall, looking around, pivoting your head, checking around, you're less of a victim because you're actually aware of your surroundings. You're not just mind lost in a little phone. Just for an example.
This episode is inspired by a conversation that got Nurse Ashley very mad at me like a year and change ago.
Okay.
We were talking about rape. And we talked about rape on the show. And I mentioned something about how women need to be more self-aware of how their actions contribute to their own victimization.
Was this on a podcast?
On the show here?
Yeah, I can't remember if it was on this or the show.
Well, we talked about an instance in a class where a girl posed a question like, well, if a girl goes walking down Hennepin Avenue in a half shirt and a mini skirt late at night and then she gets sexually harassed or raped, do you blame her? And I'm like, yeah, you put yourself in that situation.
I think it was a partial blame, to be honest. I mean, if you dress a certain way, you're going to attract the attention of males. And not all those males are going to give you joyful attention.
Especially in that part of town.
Well, in any part of town, really.
No, I'm not.
You can go 12 miles to the east in a really nice neighborhood, and you're going to get the occasional jackass that's going to be crude about it, basically, harass you. But I think most of the guys in that area would be like, oh, okay, well, she's a good-looking girl. Take a quick look. Oh, that was good.
Well, there's always this argument that, well, women shouldn't have to worry. Men should never rape. Well, no shit.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's a very simplistic and idealistic mindset. But in reality, you have to deal with reality. And reality calls for pragmatism. And pragmatism calls for you knowing that if you dress provocatively and go to places where it's very seedy and there's shitty people, that there's a chance you're making it easier for yourself to be victimized. If you're a freshman in college and you get invited to a big beer bust at some frat house and guys are plying you with liquor, they're trying to get you drunk. You know what they want because they're fucking college guys. So if you go up to some dude's room and you start making out with him, well, you're already that much closer to being raped. I mean, drinking was bad. Getting drunk was worse. Going to his room was worser, which is not a word, but I'm making it one. And then laying in his bed with him and making out is worsest in that scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've completely thrown caution to the wind, and no, you should not be raped.
You shouldn't be raped, but you put yourself in a situation where you possibly could be raped.
And I don't feel like that is directly blaming the victim. People play that easy card of, that's victim blame. How dare you?
No, it's not. It's what she's doing is she's going to a situation where something bad could happen. And what she's doing is putting her faith in that this guy she's with is honorable and decent. And I'd say she's got a 70% chance that guy will be honorable and decent.
Well, you need to acknowledge that there's a sense of personal responsibility involved.
There's supposed to be. But in today's day and age, there isn't. You're a victim. It's not your fault. Well, kind of. I mean, if you're stupid and you fall for a money scam, that's your fault.
Right. Old people get a phone call that they, bring $10,000 in a paper bag down to the bus station, leave it in locker number 32, and we'll take that money and use it as a down payment for an investment, and then you'll get back 3 times your money, and you can buy a new car or whatever.
Uh-oh, retard alert!
See how there's a less outrage when it happens to somebody and they lose out on money? Or somebody comes to test drive your car from a Craigslist ad because you're selling it, and they steal the motherfucker.
See, and that's a situation where, like, you should have been aware. You're a victim because of your own stupidity.
Yeah, you can take it for a test drive around the block, and then boom, gone.
Mm-hmm. But when it comes to when it comes to rape, they feel like the victim never has any responsibility whatsoever for events that led up to that point.
It's a shitty thing, I'm sure, if you've been raped, to be told, well, why were you there? What were you doing? Like, well, what do you mean? I'm not saying it's your fault, but you probably should have been smarter.
Yeah, did you go to the party and get drunk? Yeah. Did you go up to his room with him willingly? Yeah, but I only wanted to make out. Well, that's where you probably should have been like, no, I don't feel like going up to your room. I'm going to hang down here where there's a lot of people.
Yeah. When I was a kid, the little girl and boy across the street, they were like 3 and 5 years younger than me. Their dad bought them a dog. Mm-hmm. The dog was supposed to be on a leash at all times outside the house. She let the dog out the front door. It ran down to the end of the street into traffic and got hit by a car and died.
Poor dog.
Yeah. And the dad told her, you shouldn't have let her out, but don't worry because she didn't feel any pain. It was so quick. He didn't blame her when it was clearly her fucking fault.
He's just trying to protect his daughter's feelings.
And people are trying to protect rape victims' feelings. But there's a sense of responsibility in my neighbor girl letting the dog out and it gets killed. There's a sense of responsibility if you hang out with mostly guys and you know some of them are kind of pervy and you guys like to go out drinking and then you might be okay with fucking one of them from time to time. You have to protect yourself. Some guys aren't going to stop when you say no. Maybe you just want to make out and get to second base. He wants to fuck you.
You got him going. He wants to go all the way. He doesn't want to go home with blue balls. Which, that's his own fucking fault. He picked a girl who said no. But again, that's her relying on his honor of no means no. And then stopping.
And then you're also saying to him, how dare you? Well, yeah, like you said, you got him amped up. You could have not been there. You could have established boundaries ahead of time. You could have not gotten as drunk. It doesn't mean that you invited it and, well, fuck you. You did it to yourself because you didn't. But you put yourself in harm's way. Similar mindset, completely different context. Mm-hmm. Chris Kyle, American Sniper.
Uh-huh.
He and a buddy took another former vet with PTSD to a gun range, and the guy killed them. He was doing what he loved to do. Shoot guns and veterans outreach. Had he not taken a mentally ill former vet to a gun range, he would not have been killed with that gun.
Yeah.
And you go, well, how can you say that? Well, it's fucking simple. If you don't go hang around with crazy people around guns, then odds are you're not going to get shot.
Well, the mentally disturbed people aren't even supposed to have guns, so...
Well, PTSD is not the same as somebody that likes to, talk about killing people and throw shit at the walls. I mean, there's varying levels of mental illness, and that's the fallacy in the mental illness argument about gun control. And I've said it many times. Regular people, they seem normal, they get the guns, they have a bad day, they flip the fuck out, and they go shooting up the place. And maybe it's somebody who has actually screwed them over in life, and they only go for the people that have affected them. But most likely, and in America, what do we see? We see calculated, planned out crimes where they want to do as much collateral damage as possible. It becomes a mass shooting.
Part of me thinks so. It's not because they had a rough day or they felt like they were an outcast. They're just trying to create a name for themselves.
Yeah, and in some instances, very much so. But where I'm going with this argument about situational awareness and rape victims, I have 4 daughters. You have 2 daughters. Mm-hmm. And part of the argument with me and Nurse Ashley, she's like, So what? If your daughter gets raped, you're going to tell her it's her fault? Like, well, one, I hope that never happens. Two, I'm not going to tell her it's her fault. But three, honestly, I'm going to have a discussion with her about the importance of not putting yourself in those types of situations. You can't just trust guys to be honorable all the time, like you said. You have to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Why do people have conceal and carry permits? To protect themselves.
Because not everybody out there is honorable.
Why do you wear a seatbelt?
Because not everybody out there can drive as good as you.
Right. Why do you wear a condom when you just hook up with some chick you just met?
Because not every girl is actually on the pill.
Exactly. You have to try to protect yourself because everybody else isn't going to do it for you. And every one of my daughters, you best believe, is going to be educated about how they dress, how they act, not to give mixed signals, not to drink around guys to the point of excess, or hopefully not at all. And watch out what kinds of places you go to. If your friends want to go to some bar, some skeevy fucking dive bar downtown Minneapolis because they want to see some band, but it's in a shitty part of town on a day of the week at a time of the day when there's a lot of bad people out, you're not fucking going.
Nope.
And yeah, you could go against my wishes, and if something happens to you, I'm going to still love you and feel horrible for you and fight for you to get justice. But I told you no, and you disobeyed, and you put yourself in that position. It's just like a mouse biting the cheese and the trap snaps. Mm-hmm. You didn't have to eat that. They baited you.
Yeah.
So you really have to focus on educating your daughters about the role that their actions and their situational awareness plays in their victimization. And I don't feel it's insensitive at all. It's a cop-out to be like, you're just victim blaming. No, I'm not. I'm upset that you didn't try harder to stop this from happening because in most instances they've been given all the education in the world to fend this off.
Yeah, I would have to say that the person who's, you're just victim blaming are people who don't have personal responsibility themselves.
Yeah.
They don't believe in it. Like, no, the police and government should protect me or whatever the fuck. I mean, I'm going to go so far as to say my boys, I'm going to teach them. Don't go drink in excess. The same thing I would teach my girl. Be aware of your surroundings. If a girl says no, that means no. You shut the cock off, you put it back in your pants, and you say, well, let's go back downstairs and drink some water.
Well, the Dirty B and I have had this joke in the past where she says no to me when we're kind of cuddling and starting to fool around. She's like, no. And I'm like, you're not saying no. That's like passive resistance. You clearly like, no. Give me that cock. Nom, 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 nom. Fuck me. There's a far cry between that and some chick like, no, stop it. And then you keep going.
Yeah, no, it's been there.
But even people would say, well, she told you no, and you still did. I'm like, well, one, at the time, it was my girlfriend, and she was laughing about it. She's like, you're not getting any today. And then we'd wrestle around, and I'd tickle her. And then she'd try to snap her legs together to fight me off, jokingly, and point her ass at me. And I'd take my hands, and I'd pry her legs open, and we'd have like a test of strength. And she'd laugh the whole time. And knock on wood, she's never gone to the cops and be like, by the way, back in this time, he raped me. Like, you bitch.
Yeah.
We were fooling around.
It's like a Louis C.K. joke. Like, well, we're getting hot and heavy, but then you just stopped. Well, yeah, you said no. But I kind of wanted to just take it. What are you, fucking nuts?
I'm not going to rape you on the off chance that you might be into that shit.
It's like, I'm getting a rapey vibe from this chick.
Yeah. So I think it's unfair to paint people that put victims under the microscope for the sake of examining how the situation could be prevented in the future or could have been prevented, in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
How do we decide how we can better defend against these things if we don't examine what happened? Instead of just giving them a shoulder to cry on and a pat on the back and saying, it's okay, it's not your fault. Well, what if some chick is every weekend out partying hard at the bars, getting drunk, and fucking showing her tits to guys? People go to bars to get drunk and try to fuck somebody, at least 50% of the time. So there's a 50-50 chance that the guys that you're flirting with, drinking with, showing your tits to, that are chatting you up, want to fuck you.
Yeah.
Just assume that every guy in the world that's not your father or your brother want to stick their dick in you. This goes all the way back to episode 7, I believe, that was called An Iron Maiden of Random Dicks. This is episode 98, and I'm recalling episode 7.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
I can't even remember.
And I said that exactly that. For my daughters, outside of my dad and me, the rest of the world is an Iron Maiden of random dicks that want to stab them in the innocence.
That could be one way to look at it.
Look at human trafficking the way it's boomed. I mean, Jesus Christ. It's fucking ridiculous. Minnesota is like a hub for human trafficking. And we got the Super Bowl coming to town.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm the FBI, which, by the way, I drove by their office 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Did you know they have a giant office in Brooklyn Center off of Humboldt and Freeway Boulevard?
No, I thought they just had the one downtown by ING.
No, it's fucking huge. I drove by, I'm like, what the fuck is that? I'm like, Federal Bureau of... Holy shit.
Not surprising.
Yeah. So if I'm them, I'm doing 24-hour around-the-clock stings, trying to bust these fucking pimps to catch as many of them as possible, to free as many victims of human trafficking as possible for like a week before the big game and a week after the big game.
Shit, 2 weeks before the big game.
Could be, but you should be diverting resources away from other shit to focus on this. You know? Call in extra law enforcement from out of town. Call in the fucking National Guard and have them pose as Johns. Let's get these motherfuckers. Just put them down. End the crime once and for all.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying that because we need to be responsible for our own culture. Because if you're relying on these guys to not traffic young girls to make money off them being basically pincushions for dick, well, then you fail. Heaven forbid you or I, like if our daughters get groped, tell them, well, you shouldn't have fucking been there flirting with those guys drunk or whatever. You shouldn't have gone to that part of town. If you get out of your car and the place you're going is across an alley from you, and that alley is dark in a known drug neighborhood, at 3 a.m, do you think you should be walking back to your car?
Nope.
Last call's at 2, and you get out, you got to walk across the alley to get back to your car? Fucking walk the block fast.
Yeah.
Or, as stupid as it sounds, call for an Uber to drive you to your car, which isn't even safe because Uber drivers have been known to take people to destinations that weren't their own and try to rape them.
Really?
Dude, this shit has happened.
I haven't heard of
Here
it.
especially. A couple instances of a couple Somali guys picked up these women and said, oh, no, we're going here. We're going to have sex. Like they think that America is just like wherever they came from.
Well, they
Somalia
try to turn it into that, yeah.
Yeah, like we're going to have sex. Like she's going to be like, we are? Oh, okay.
So much for assimilation.
Well.
But that was another episode.
Well, the problem with just assuming that all men are safe is that you lower your guard to the point where you never know when you're really safe. It's just like people that hear about these, quote, victims that say they were sexually assaulted or sexually harassed, and they immediately go, oh, that son of a bitch did that. I'm so sorry for you. But think about it now. A lot of people are being outed over the internet. Back in the day, you would tell the police, or you'd go to the media. The media would vet out your claims before they aired your story so as to not get sued for libel, slander, and defamation of character.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that anymore. We have social media where anybody can jump on the internet and accuse anybody of anything. And maybe it's completely out of context. Maybe they've got a few screen grabs from a time this guy was drunk or this girl was drunk. It can go both ways. And people are automatically like, oh my God, I feel so sorry for you. Well, what if she's making it up? And then when you say that, people are like, how dare you fucking victim shame? Well, we don't know. Look at how she's talking. She seems a little crazy.
There's been a lot of cases of that, or false accusations of rape and stuff. So, it happens. They just want attention. They want to try to get money or whatever. And so they like, well, he touched me. He grabbed me. He raped me or whatever. Duke lacrosse players.
Yeah, how'd that one turn out in the long run?
It ended up being a complete false claim, but these kids' lives were destroyed before anybody got down to the facts, and they passed judgment before the facts were known.
And that was at a time when social media was not nearly as big of a footprint on the
Nowhere
internet.
near it. What was that, 8-9 years ago now?
I want to say it was like 2009.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
And going with that, as the media's ability to vet out real news has shrunk, the internet has grown exponentially faster than that. And now it's like the Wild West of making accusations. And everybody wants you to instantly pick up a torch and a pitchfork and start fucking screaming at whoever did whatever. And then you don't take the time to examine the claims. You don't take the time to look at the situation. You don't take the time to wait for a response from the accused. Who, if they're smart, yeah, you might think, well, how come you didn't immediately say you didn't do it? You must be guilty. No, they know that everybody is going to shit their pants if the apology does not seem sincere enough or you don't say the right things. So, I mean, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah.
But if you don't take the time to collect all that information, how do you truly gauge culpability? You're just going to go off the word of whoever points a finger?
No, you need to research it.
The reason I bring up that is the singer of the band Suicide Silence, Eddie Hermida, was outed via the internet by some girl in the Netherlands who said that years ago she was 17, contacting him on social media when he was 32, and he asked her for nudes. And that he conducted an emotionally abusive relationship with her where he made her think that he wanted to be with her, and that he was married but in an open relationship. And, you know, when he came to town for the tour, they were going to get together. But he also told her, I don't want you to be a virgin for me. And she says, he told me to go out and fuck randoms so that he wouldn't be my first. She played herself out to be this complete victim when A, you were starstruck, B, you're 17. You're not like a 12-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
You know what adult men want. You know you're talking about sex. And when he found out that she wasn't 18 like he assumed, he cut it off and said, nothing else is going to happen until you're 18. And then when they did go to town and she was there, she claims he basically shunned her.
Well, yeah, at that point, it's just like, she fucking lied to me.
And it goes further where she goes, he made me feel so low to the point where I thought my life was worthless and I tried to kill myself and I took a whole bottle of Xanax, but it didn't work.
Well, that's because you have a self-esteem issue, not because of him.
And then she's like, I found out about another girl who he did the same thing to, and we're talking, and it makes me feel alive again. Where previously, I was in this abusive relationship with him where 10% of the time he was nice, but the other 90% of the time he treated me like shit. So now we're examining that this girl has daddy issues probably, and that she has self-esteem issues, and that she doesn't know how to say no. But all these other posters, we were getting into it, all these other commenters on the PRP's website.
Mm-hmm.
I was clashing with 2 or 3 dudes, one in particular who's like, no, a 32-year-old should never be with a 17 or an 18-year-old. That's fucking sick. That's scummy. He's a creep. She's legal age, and in many parts of the world, the age of consent is 16. In Minnesota, it's 16. Now, there's safeguards that says you can't be like an old man fucking a 16-year-old. You can be no more than 48 months older, or else it's a sex crime. It's statutory rape. You're taking advantage of them. But still, do you know what the age of consent is in Japan?
What is it?
13.
Ew.
Yeah. And there's other countries.
Yeah, it is a freaky country.
I think it's in the Philippines or something. It's 12. Well, I researched this shit.
That's where a lot of frickin' sex trafficking goes on, too. Underage. I know that. I saw a whole documentary on it a few years ago.
So this dude's screaming that he's a creeper. I'm like, well, I'm not saying that he isn't kind of creepy if he emotionally abused her. That's not what I'm saying. But she was essentially an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a sense of responsibility she needs to take for her own actions. And you say he coerced nudes out of you over the internet? He didn't fucking hold a gun to your head and say, take naked pictures of you and send them to me.
No, he asked you, can I have nudes, please, please? Probably begged, but...
He probably buttered her up, and then he sent her dick pics. Which people were like, well, he's sending pornography to a child. She's not a child. In the eyes of the law in the state of Minnesota, at 14, you're culpable as an adult if it's a capital offense.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, you guys need to calm down on the high and mighty morality bullshit. Because, yes, it was crappy what he did to her, but she could easily just not been like, oh my God, the singer of a band I like. She seemed like a fucking nutcase. And she got so much backlash about it that she took down the postings. And her Twitter account's been deactivated, whether by her choice or theirs. I don't know, maybe they threatened legal action. It took him 2 days to come up with a response. And his response was, I'm sorry that I hurt her in this way. I was under the impression that she was 18. When I found out she wasn't, it stopped. I should know better because I respect all women. I was raised by a single mom, and women should not be treated this way. It was all total appeasement and very little apology, which he technically didn't need to do in my eyes. But you got to know that he waited to give a calculated response because he's a contracted employee of a major record label, Nuclear Blast, and they're worldwide. You think they're just going to be like, hey, you should probably fucking talk about this?
No, we need to plan this out. We need this to be, what happened. I mean, they're going to do their own research.
Yeah, and a day prior, got 3 different musicians from different bands were outed for engaging in inappropriate behavior or trying to with 14, 15, and 16-year-olds. That's worse than trying to get nudes on the internet from a 17-year-old.
Yeah, I think so.
And then you got people like former Lost Prophets singer Ian Watkins, who's doing, I don't even know how many, like 25 to life for raping kids and being a pedophile. And he would try to coerce women into letting him fuck their babies.
Why is this guy still alive?
Good question.
Fucking kill him.
Yeah. But situational awareness for this 17-year-old. Just fucking say no. Are you that hard up for a dude that you're like, oh, I want to be with somebody famous? It's no different than groupies. The only contextual difference is the age gap, which I'm fine with because if anything would have happened, she would have been 18.
Mm-hmm.
And, a guy said, well, there was all this outrage for these 3 other dudes, but not for Eddie. You guys are defending him. Well, these other guys are with 14 to 15-year-olds, or trying to be.
Yeah, it's a grossly different situation. Yeah, I can see that.
And more importantly, someone's like, well, what about if it was your daughter? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm going to be a little upset that she's with a dude that old.
I mean, like, there's lots of guys your age.
Right. But she should know better. And I'm not going to be like, well, if she's with a guy that old, I failed. No.
Yeah.
No, she's making a conscious decision. Maybe he is manipulating her. I don't know.
Maybe. It's the variables. You have to hope.
But there's grown women that make irrational decisions. There's women in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s.
What's that astronaut that drove cross country, wore diapers so she wouldn't have to stop to pee? Because another astronaut that was supposed to be in a space shuttle, she realized that they had broken up and he was with another woman, and she drove cross country in a diaper. And she's supposed to be an astronaut. She was a NASA astronaut. Drove cross country to confront him.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like a phone call more than
it
cross-country psychosis.
It seems to me like, okay, we broke up. Moving on.
People need to educate their daughters. Don't just rely on the cop-out, never victim shame, or, oh, you're victim-blaming mindset. That's not fair. It's not. You can sit there and cross your fingers and hope for world peace, and cross your other 2 fingers and hope for a world where nobody ever gets raped, but it's never going to fucking happen. No. So now you have a responsibility to educate them, and they have a responsibility to defend themselves. Give your daughter some pepper spray. Find out where the shitty parts of town are. Find out if where she's going to hang out is not a place where she should probably be, because there's a greater chance that she's going to be victimized. Do you disagree with any of what I'm saying there?
No, I don't.
You have daughters. I have daughters.
Yeah.
So for like third wave feminists, like, how fucking dare you victim blame? I'm not victim blaming. I'm rationalizing that you have a responsibility to yourself to protect yourself, because no one will do it for you.
I'm willing to bet there are some true classic victims. I mean, well, there are, obviously. The lady who works late at her office and she's going out to her car in the parking lot and somebody comes by and starts raping her. I mean, she did absolutely nothing to put herself in a situation other than trying to get to her car to go home. Even if she's in a good part of town, I mean, those situations do happen, and it's like, well, okay, well, there wasn't anything she could have done to avoid that. She was at work. She was sober. She was in a parking lot.
The assailant snuck up on her.
Yeah, but that's the situation as you were describing. Oh, you got drunk. You went upstairs to his room. You said no, but he wasn't an honorable person. I'm sorry, but you could have avoided that situation.
Well, there was a jogger the other day, and some guy tried to grab her and grope her and stuff. Well, it turns out she carries a knife when she jogs, just for those instances. Smart cookie.
Smart person.
She stabbed the shit out of this guy.
Good.
And then he ran away, and she went chasing after him with the knife to stab him some more.
Good.
Nobody's charging her because it was self-defense.
Self-defense, far left. Even if he tried to run away, self-defense. He could always come back.
Well, just think of the factors that you're more likely to be kidnapped or raped by somebody you know. Or killed by somebody you know.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Stranger, she's jogging. Public, daylight. You had a weapon because you were smart. This is bucking all the usual trends. It's an attempted stranger rape in broad daylight.
Mm-hmm.
But you had the wherewithal to carry a knife. When I go biking, I either carry a pocket knife or I carry my collapsible police baton.
I always carry a pocket knife, and there's a lot of times where I do carry a firearm too. So,
well, I keep the baton in the car with me.
I want to get one of those. I want to get 6 of them.
Why?
For my family.
Yeah, but then the kids are just going to play fucking lightsaber battles with them.
Teach them properly as they get older. They don't need them now, but eventually.
Well, I mean, the Beast's now former boyfriend, lover boy, when they first got together, he would always carry around a set of brass knuckles with him.
Are those actually illegal, though?
They're illegal, yes, but he's very smart for doing it because he'd have to walk home to the apartment where he'd couch crash, and it was in a shitty part of town.
So he was trying to think.
Thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know, I lock my car when I get out of it. I lock my car in my garage, which is attached to my house, but does not go right into my house, and I lock that door too. And then I lock my back door and deadbolt my back door. I padlock my shed. I don't leave any of my shit unattended. I'm trying to stop myself from becoming a victim, and everybody else should take a stronger sense of responsibility to do the same.
Yeah.
Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It. That is at What Do We Call It. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann.
And I'm number 1 fan, Tim.
And that's the end.